Okay, welcome back to lesson 52, where we're going to continue on with the borders. This is part 2 of the borders, going around the piece of clothing. So as you can see, we are just finishing off the inner bits, inside bit here, and then we're going to start around the other sides of the arms and the neck, just to put things into place. It's basically rinse and repeat from the previous video. Oh, and I threw in this little bit here just to show sometimes when you're doing the borders and you want them to connect and you don't want to see too much on the outside, if you looked closely, because I connected this border piece to the armor piece, it's actually quite visible on the outside that there's a huge gap between the body. So I wanted to make sure that there was no gap, so I just wanted to push this inside the body. So that shouldn't be a problem moving forwards. And then just putting in some edge creases here, and everything should be good. But apart from that, we're just going to go over and extrude the planes. Oh yes, that's right. I noticed here I had to edit, and I think I had to move or uncrease that one edge going across. But anyway, I'm going to skip that out and just carry on what we were previously doing. I didn't quite like the look of the way how that is connecting up to the top piece, so we might move that to the right later on. So just for now, we're going to push this under the piece of armor, and then probably going to connect these together. So we want to keep it nice and fluent, basically connecting to one to another without having too many separate objects. Really, this will actually help for if you need to UV unwrap later on as well. So we're just going to snap that to the center like so. I don't know why there's an edge crease going around to the center there, like it's shown, but I will probably deal with that and dissolve it later on when I come to it. Actually, I think that might have been from earlier, from when I was using the curve to attach the spikes to the upper part of the breasts, but that's okay. Anyway, when we're in Sculpt tool here, just gonna try and inflate or try and grab and smooth down either the clothing or bring out the border of the line so it looks in place how it should look, like so. Just drag and using the grab tool, and just pull that out. Sometimes it's also good to go into edit mode and just select the vertex or the edge or the face, depending on which is better, and just pull it out, and then you can have the proportion tool on. I've seen other artists do this, sometimes using the sculpt brush or using just edit mode and the proportion tool. There's different ways and different scenarios you can use them, or it's just personal preference, I think. So for this bit, for example, I just want to move this across. I didn't quite like the way it was sitting. I didn't think it looked right on the body itself. I thought it looked a bit too squished on the front and the shape of the whole torso. So I'm just going to move this across, push it back, and make it look nicer. As you can see, I'm just using the grab tool and just slowly pushing and pulling and moving it in and out, which it does look slightly better actually. We'll probably just finish that off later. Anyway, back to the borders of the neck. We're just going to duplicate this one plane, move it up. We're going to go to object properties there, as you can see, and then tick the in front button. So I briefly touched on this, I think, in the last lesson, but as you can see, I'm selecting each vert and then extruding the vert instead of the whole like plane. That is because I think this could be handy because you're not triple touching it over again. You're moving every vert when you're connecting or snapping it to the model. So I thought, well, do you know what? If I'm just extruding, if I'm extruding the edges, I'm having to come back through the verts and the other side of the verts. So this is another technique, another way, and I have actually seen other artists do this as well. So it definitely is a handy way of doing it. And then when you've done this, you go to select your edges. You can make sure if they are all parallel to each other, you can just hold the F key and they will fill in all the faces, which is just fantastic, because then you can then go into sculpt mode, and if they're too far down, just grab the vertices and then just pull them up. Sometimes you might not see where the vertices are just from where the little dot is. Still, I'm not quite sure why my cursor's not quite on the little dot when I'm grabbing it. I think it's something to do with my resolution on the graphics tablet. May not be 100% set up properly. Might have to look into that one. I am using the Wacom Pro 16, so I got it from a good deal on Amazon. It's not a promotion video, but that's just my opinion. I do like the Wacom. I've never had any problems with it. I've had it for about I think a couple of years now. But okay, so after going over the neck piece there, I found that was the most quickest and most reliable way of doing it. We are now going to go over the shoulders, and we're going to go around the arms and under the arms. So as you can see, I'm just extruding and just pulling each edge around. Just going to speed it up a bit. Probably should have sped it up a bit faster, but it doesn't have to be super accurate as long as it's roughly the same width as all the other borders. There are ways of calculating. You can use loop tools if you want to make sure the distance between all the loop edges and everything are the same. As you can see there, when I came all the way back to the beginning, because it's a loop going around, one side's thicker than the other. Now I'm not sure, I could have just done a loop cut and then maybe changed the verts or created it separate loop, and probably gone around with the grab tool and moved it all out. I'm not sure if there is a way to keep all the measurements the same when extruding outwards like I have done here. I was doing it manually with each vert going along. I have looked into it and I'm not sure how to exactly describe what it is I'm trying to do, but I'd be bizarre if there isn't a way of doing it. There might be another way of doing it. Thing is, when you have used Blender for so long, and you come across different techniques of doing things, sometimes you forget just the basic or just the original ways of how to do things, because you've learnt so much over a long period of time or over a short period of time. You then start to do different techniques or different ways, or then you realise once you've done one thing, you're like, oh, hang on, I could have done it like this. Like, for example, what I could have done is selected the entire edge loop going around the arm here, create that as a separate object, turn it into a curve, increase depth on it on the curve properties, and then add depth onto it, and then use checker deselect and make it nice and flat, put a subdivision surface on it, and then Bob's your uncle. I probably have something very similar to what I have right now, and it might actually be slightly quicker. But again, it might have its difficulties as well. But I do believe that is another method, which unfortunately I didn't really show, but I can do in a future video, no problem. So after we've done that, make sure everything's nice and flat and everything's flowing really nicely. As you can see, this is nearly done. It's not that far off. We're much closer to finished than we was before. So I hope you learned something in this video, and I'll catch you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching.